If they found us, we were already dead. The jungle was so quiet you could hear your own heartbeat knocking against your ribs. Somewhere below the ridge, less than 50 feet away, a North Vietnamese truck convoy rumbled through the darkness, headlights blacked out, engines low, tires crushing the wet leaves of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. 6 Americans lay face down in the mud, unmoving, barely breathing. They weren't supposed to be here, not in this country. Not on this trail, not this close. But in 1967, MACV-SOG Recon teams didn't get to choose the odds. Their mission was simple and almost suicidal: slip behind enemy lines. Stay invisible, count everything that moves. Live long enough to report it. 2 out of 3 missions ended in firefights. Rescue was never guaranteed, and the North Vietnamese army hunted them with a vengeance, deploying entire battalions to sniff out a handful of Americans hiding in their jungle. This is the story of the men who ran the trail when running it meant crawling through enemy territory where you were outnumbered 100 to 1, and yet expected to come back with the truth. In the spring of 1967, Forward Operating Base 1 at Phu Bai buzzed with a strange mixture of silence and dread. A new recon team, Spike Team Hound Dog, prepared for insertion. 6 men total: team leader, Staff Sergeant Bill Bear Harding, assistant Jerry Lopez, radio and codes. 3 Montagnard strikers, silent, deadly jungle specialists, a combat medic, Doc Mills Young, steady-handed, always calm. Their objective was somewhere no American service member was supposed to step foot: Laos. The command brief was blunt: you will not be acknowledged if captured. You do not exist. Track movement on the trail. Stay 5 days. Exfil at dusk, same LZ. Harding tucked the mission map inside a plastic sleeve. 5 days, he said. Jerry gave a half smile. If the yards don't smell trouble first. Trouble always came. At dawn, a King Bee helicopter skimmed treetop level and dropped them into a tiny clearing. The moment the rotors faded, the team melted into the bush. They were ghosts now. The Ho Chi Minh Trail wasn't a trail, it was a river of war, feeding entire NVA divisions in the south. Night brought movement, day brought camouflage. For hours the team belly crawled through bamboo tunnels, mud so thick it glued rifles to hands. At 1400, one of the yards froze, held up a closed fist. Movement. Harding slid beside him. Through a curtain of vines he saw them, NVA porters, a column of 30 men carrying ammunition crates on bicycles they pushed like wheelbarrows. The team pressed deeper into the ground, faces against the earth. The porters passed, then a second group appeared. Then a third. The line never seemed to end. Jerry whispered, "Christ, this is a division." Harding took notes: time, direction, type of cargo, number of troops. Day 1 wasn't even over, and they had more intel than 2 months of air reconnaissance. But success always has a price. At dusk a cup-sized Vietnamese scout dog barked twice from somewhere down the ridge. The hunt had begun. By sunrise of day 2, they heard them tracking teams, maybe 60 to 70 men, fanning out across the forest. Whistles, hand drums, voices barking orders. NVA doctrine was simple: a recon team meant B-52 strikes were coming. They had to erase the Americans before they could escape. Harding motioned for silence. The team climbed into a small ravine and covered themselves in foliage. Jerry killed the radio to prevent accidental squelch. For 3 hours, enemy troops combed the ridge above. Boots scraped rock, bayonets stabbed the underbrush. A soldier stopped so close Jerry could see the mud packed under his toenails. Harding thought, if he looks down 2 inches, we're gone. But the undergrowth held. The NVA passed, angry but empty-handed. When night fell, the team didn't move an inch. Movement meant noise. Noise meant death. Day 3 began with thunder truck engines, dozens of them, rolling in convoy formation just yards away. Harding set up the long-range antenna while hidden under a fallen tree. Jerry whispered coordinates. The trail below wasn't a path. It was a 2-lane highway, carved through the jungle canopy. Open bed trucks stacked with rice and rockets clawed up the slopes, their drivers young, thin, focused. Searchlights scanned the ridge occasionally. The Americans watched unseen. This was the paradox of SOG Recon. They were in the most dangerous position imaginable. But they had never been more valuable. Every truck counted was another map update. Every battalion spotted was another saved platoon. Every detail meant the difference between an ambush and survival for someone else. At 020, as they logged another night convoy, one of the yards tapped Harding. Enemy patrol. Moving straight toward them, Harding clenched his jaws. "Stay still. Let them walk over us if they have to." And they almost did. A squad of NVA troops, tired and half asleep, drifted past just feet away. One leaned on a tree trunk, the same tree Harding was hiding under. The soldier spat, wiped his nose, and kept walking. Jerry exhaled the breath he'd held for 30 seconds. It happened on the morning of day 4. A Montagnard striker spotted two scouts tailing their movement. He pointed, signaled danger, but it was too late. A whistle shrieked, automatic fire erupted through the trees, AK rounds shredded bamboo stalks, splintering the air with whip cracks. Harding shouted, "Break contact, break contact." The team scattered, leapfrogging bounds. Jerry sent a flash message. "Compromised, request immediate extraction," but rescue was at least an hour away, and the NVA were closing fast, more than 100 men sweeping the ridgeline. Harding threw a claymore. The blast punched a hole in the jungle, staggering the pursuers. Doc Mills dragged a wounded yard behind cover while returning fire with his car. -15. 60 minutes, Jerry said, reloading. "Just 1 hour, Harding replied. "We can do that," but the NVA weren't slowing. They were tightening the noose. The extraction LZ was a small patch of elephant grass on the crest of Hill 891. They had to cut through dense vines and sprint uphill while bullets chased them. The jungle vibrated with explosions as Harding's team laid booby traps to delay pursuit. At the top of the hill, Jerry raised the radio antenna and keyed the mic. "Kingby, this is Hound Dog. Pop smoke." A distant rotor responded, slight, faint, but real. Harding threw green smoke. The helicopter NH-34 piloted by fearless South Vietnamese airmen descended through incoming fire like a steel angel. NVA machine guns opened up. Tracers sliced the sky. "Hurry." The pilot screamed through the radio. "I can't hover long." The team bounded toward the chopper. Bullets punched the dirt. A yard took a round to the leg. Doc hauled him in. Harding was last. He fired a burst, sprinted, jumped, and was yanked inside as the helicopter pulled up violently. The valley below erupted with muzzle flashes, dozens of them. They had escaped by less than a minute. Back at Phu, the team staggered off the helicopter, drenched in sweat and smoke. They handed their intel to the S2 officer, movement logs, troop estimates, cargo details. The officer reviewed the notes and nodded. "This," he said, "is gold." Within 72 hours, B-52s hit the exact coordinates Harding's team had recorded, disrupting one of the largest supply pushes of the year. But there were no medals, no public recognition, no official record. SOG missions were classified for decades. These men operated in places where they technically never existed, performing missions no one was supposed to know about. Yet their work saved untold American lives. They were the ghosts of the trail, moving unseen, fighting in winnable odds, and surviving on skill, silence, and pure nerve. And in 1967, in the depths of a hostile jungle, 6 men proved that courage doesn't need witnesses. It only needs a mission.